So this is the back tire on the twin kids tractor bed project. Again, nothing on the internet about making a tire, if you will, out of wood without just either for a little toy model or, you know, just cutting a piece of plywood and painting it. So here's the back tires and go over how I made those. So first off, starting with the 5/8 plywood again, cut myself two pieces, and these are 3 feet in diameter, 2 circles, close to 3 feet, somewhere in there. Then what I did, out of the inside one, I cut a 2-foot hole. So I have 2 for each tire. 3-foot circles, and then cut a 2-foot hole out of the first one. So then how I joined these together was I took 8 2x4s, 12 inches or 11 inches in length, to give myself a 12-inch wide back tire. And I just nailed or screwed those or stapled those around the perimeter at equal lengths. Glued them, stapled it together. You can see one of them is right there. 3 staple, and there's a 2x4 that's connecting underneath here. Let that sit overnight, let it sit up. Now the hardest part of this project, how do you make a circle out of wood? And that's where all this fancy steam bending and everything like that comes in. So what I did is I took 1/4-inch birch, 1/4-inch plywood works as well. And I actually put it in the bathtub in a jacuzzi, which my wife loved, for about 2 hours and let it sit there. And what happened is it softened it enough that the layer started to bubble, actually. The glue started to separate. And that allowed me to bend it. And I took into the house one of my circles for each tire and the inside. And then using a ratchet strap, I had my 2 pieces of 1/4-inch birch, and I ratchet strapped it around the outside and clamped it down, let it sit there underneath a wet towel for 2 days. Let that sit there in moisture, and if you leave it sit there for over a day, it should hold its shape. Sure enough, took my ratchet straps off, and there it sat. The problem with that is the outside, if you're making a 3-foot tire, you're not going to have enough length to get around. So I had to use a little cheater piece, which is 1.5 feet long here. You can see it goes from there to there. And that's pretty rough, but it doesn't matter because this section will be my bottom. So I didn't really care about that. And then where I cared about, I wood-filled, sanded it. And once you paint this, again, this is a paint project, so that'll look pretty smooth. So then I got those things in. The next thing is to make the lugs, if you will. Now, true tractor lugs are offset. Obviously, I get that, but for strength issues, I couldn't do that. So I ripped pieces of 2x4 that were 1 inch thick, and then cut those, and then made I believe this was another 11-degree angle, but don't quote me on that, for a 22-degree angle total. And glued those together with a nail gun and nailed them and let those sit. And I had 14 of them for each tire. So 28 of them in total of these stapled 2x4 lugs. And then I glued and stapled those the next day down to the tire, primarily relying on glue. Then what I did to finish up the project is I went to the inside. This is going to be an Allis Chalmers tractor, a 190 actually. And this is what the inside of the tires looked like relatively. I used a 3-inch PVC cap and roughed it up so it'll hold paint. Stuck that in the middle, made a square around it using 2x6s, and then cut pieces of 2x4 into a little knocked out shape like that, which is relatively what the inside of the tires look like. And then put some, these are actually just 9/16 1/2-inch long bolts that are glued in there because I couldn't find lag screws that big. But that's pretty much what it needs to look like. And then some wood filler and some sanding. You end up with a gap on the inside too, but it's not even a 2x4 wide. So if you space your two edges, put some wood filler and sand it, that'll be fine. And this will be the inside, but this will be the top. So you really won't, once it's all put together, you probably won't see that. In any event, that's a back tire. And again, the tires are by far the most labor-intensive process of this whole thing.